That's a good one.
Home.
So that's Skylar Grey or what?
Skylar Grey.
What's her other name? Why does she have two names?
She has a real name, and she has a not real name.
She got a fake name.
Yes, she does.
Holly Brooke is Skylar Grey, and that's awesome. I'm hearing noises. I can't tell if it's in my headphones or not. I was also listening to music ridiculously loud in my car. Ladies and gentlemen, this is POLYMUSE, and we are bringing you an episode of the show. This is POLYMUSE, the podcast where we take our favorite artists, the ones that have changed our lives. This is season 1, Linkin Park. We're doing the side project today, Fort Minor, the side project of Mike Shinoda, a very cool idea that he got to spin off into his own rap career, essentially, inside of Linkin Park, outside of Linkin Park. And that's what we're doing today. How's it going, Michael?
It's going pretty well. I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
This is The Rising Tide is the name of the Fort Minor project here. We covered in a previous episode the kind of the mixtape that came out previous to this official commercial album release, if you will.
Fort Minor, we major.
Fort Minor is largely considered the Mike Shinoda solo spin-off, although he works very closely with two members of Styles of Beyond, Ryan Patrick, or Ryu, and Takbir Bashir, or Tak. So those two gentlemen are on roughly half the songs on this project, so really the two of us consider them really a trio.
Yeah, as we said last episode, we pretty much unofficially inducted them into Fort Minor, because Mike says that, it's not an alias. Like, he is not Fort Minor. Fort Minor's a band the way Nine Inch Nails is a band, but he is the Trent Reznor of the group, where he's the guy who's generating all the main ideas and kind of the lead force behind the project. But it is funny that they always, half the songs say featuring Styles of Beyond.
Yeah, the Fort part of the artist name comes from, I guess, the aggressive side of music, and the minor can mean either, coming from music theory, or it can come from, it's him wanting to focus on, like you said, the music and not just Mike Shinoda. So a minor can mean a lot of different things, but him being a minor part of the collective project. And Rising Tide is a play on the words, tied to a group of folks coming up in, the context of the whole record, the whole piece.
And it's like, the way I think of it too is like, it's his small fort, like a minor fort inside of Linkin Park. You've got this other little subcategory where you can go even deeper into the hip hop, and that's what he does, man. This is a really cool album.
Yep. And Mike has referred to, bringing a number of people on board for this project, and Linkin Park's label, Machine Shop Records. Brad Delson is the A&R for this record, if you want to explain what an A&R is real quick.
Yeah, A&R is basically just the guy who works for the record label, who decides what bands get signed, and then they're essentially the head guy who decides how to market the band and present them, and which songs to put on the record, which songs to put out, and kind of just the whole vision. And basically Jay-Z, is he the executive producer on this?
Yep, and both Brad and Jay-Z help kind of screen out which songs make the final cut of the album, as there are several songs that don't make the album. They did more songs than necessary and screened out which tracks would make the project. So, and
they always do, man. It's
Yep.
I wonder how deep the archives go, because Linkin Park's always talking about how they write just hundreds of songs. We're gonna get into some of those albums later, where Minutes to Midnight, the one we're doing next, they wrote like hundreds of songs apparently, and some of them have leaked out over the years on their Underground album and stuff like that. But this is the melting pot of his other ideas, where he can take maybe leftover ideas, maybe ideas that weren't going to work for Linkin Park, maybe completely new ideas, just spin off from there, where he can just generate so many riffs, because he's making most of the music on this, right? He's playing guitar, playing keys, rapping, singing, producing, which he does on Linkin Park.
Do all the lyrics and the instrumentation himself as much as possible. Yep.
Right. I remember him saying he wanted it to be, he plays all the instruments if possible.
So after Collision Course with Jay-Z in November of 2004, with Jay-Z and Linkin Park, this project was released November 22nd of 2005. So about a year later was this hip hop project spinoff with Mike Shinoda. It was well received at the time. I don't know that I hear it much anymore, but there's a lot of good tracks on here. We've got a lot of our pump up heavy hitter tracks. We've got a lot of very, very meaningful tracks to Mike. A lot of storytelling in here with very vivid imagery through the lyrics, and a lot of other emotional tracks that we'll walk through as we go through the track listing.
I think you're right, though, that at the time it was very kind of well respected, and it came out and it hit hard. It was really, I think it was appreciated as a hip hop album. You know, it wasn't kind of like a niche novelty thing. Like, he really brought it to like a mainstream, you know, he was on the big stage, man, and he was doing it. But like you were saying, nowadays, you never hear about this record. And I think you know, he only did one. Like, he proved that he could do it. He proved that he could step aside from the band and he could just hold the mic down and be entertaining as a rapper. But it was like one and done, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, but it's kind of holds its place, though, that he just is like, yeah, look, I can do this. Here we go. There you go. I just did it.
It went platinum here in the United States. It went gold in Australia and Japan. So very successful.
Yeah, that's great.
There.
He did it. Yep. He did it, man.
Where'd You Go went number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Remember the Name was the second single. It hit number 66, and it had a handful of songs that had music videos.
But yeah, I had never really listened to this as a full album. I knew a lot of the songs. Growing up, I was obsessed with Linkin Park, but I was more into the metal side of it. As I grew older, I got into hip hop a lot more and kind of broadened my horizons. And on the re-listen, I've never really sat down and listened to it as an album until we did the re-listen this week. And it's awesome, dude. There's a lot of great stuff on here. I was kind of doing my tier ranking based on like whether or not I would ever listen to it again, because some of it's forgettable. Like, it's not a perfect album.
Right.
It's not all amazing. It's not, and some of it's kind of, there are some repetitive where he kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, we already did the same trick on a different track. But for the most part, dude, he mixes up the beats a lot, and he mixes up the sounds of the instruments a lot. And like you were saying, he's got all these, it's so heavy storytelling rap, which was super big at the time. Obviously, he's super influenced by Eminem, who is big on storytelling, but I feel like storytelling is not a big part, not necessarily this type of where it's a story with characters and blah blah blah. You know, it's not a part of rap really at the moment where we are right now.
He does a really good job of fleshing out the details and the experience on a lot of these tracks, and you bounce back and forth between popular songs like Petrified and, you know, some of these other tracks. Yeah.
What?
Between these very complex, vivid stories that you kind of play out as you're listening to the song, to these other kind of bland tracks that are just 15 years later are just, you may remember because they were singles or big at the time, but are just forgettable. Are just nothing. And it's really it's too bad some of these really important, complex, vivid tracks that really stand out and tell a story do not still get played today.
I think people do remember Kenji a lot, and I think, but I mean, remember the name. Let's just do the tracks. I think we're gonna go track by track. Are we ready for that?
I think we are.
Starts with an intro. Kind of a cool intro. Reminds me very much of Cure for the Itch. It's just kind of random alien noises and stuff like that. But Jay-Z is in the intro.
Yep, this is one of the couple times we do get Jay-Z in here, and we get his voice just a couple times from after all these tracks were recorded, and he was sitting helping making the song selection process. We get a couple clips from what he was talking about as far as making his song selections. It's in towards the end of the outro and says, the richness of the music and everything, I knew it was going to be something serious. It's close to that because his voice kind of cuts in.
The richness of the music and everything, I knew it was going to be something serious.
Yeah, just expressing how we knew it was going to be an important project. And we roll right from the intro.
That's a good quote.
Yeah, because we also roll right into Remember the Name.
Yeah.
Which was the massive hit that was played on sporting events.
Everything.
On commercials.
It's got to still be on everything, right?
I think it was still played on some sporting events just a few years ago, 2015, you know.
So, yeah, he knows how to get people hype. He knows how to bring the party when he needs to, obviously. Great intro track.
Both members of Style of Beyond are on this, Tak and Ryu.
Okay.
So it's the trio on here.
Yeah.
The core trio.
The Fort Minor. And yeah, they all get a verse. Dude, this song is like a meme nowadays where it's like a go-to workout song, a go-to pump-up song. And it's actually good. Like, it's not cheesy. They've taken it to such a level. It's become such a meme of a song, and kind of even, it's way more famous than this album. People remember the name. You hear it all over the place.
I think you know, the chorus, even if you don't know who sang the track.
But it holds up. That's what I'm trying to say, is like, it's not just a meme. It is a really great record. You got the kind of the signature Mike Shinoda violins going on. He's always doing these like programmed violin samples mixed with more like hip hop drums.
Actually, for most of this album, he's got a lot of live strings. He actually brought in a lot of live instruments.
Okay.
For this particular track, he actually did bring in a live orchestra to play this part. And it was very hard for them to record the particular chorus the way that it is, or the particular background the way that it is. So they had to stagger each instrument playing a different note to get it exactly right. So in this particular case...
So they couldn't just play the sheet music.
Yes. That's right. In this particular case, they had to each play dun, 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 dun,
they just had to play individual notes and sample it.
Yeah.
Well, and build it up.
Yes. They had to be perfect timing and each do one bow stroke at a time.
Wow.
In order to get the tempo right, get everything just right.
That's a cool way to make a record.
Yeah.
I know that Dr. Dre always uses live instruments, or for the most part tries to like get guys in to play the parts. Probably not the drums and stuff, but like bass and guitar and synths and that kind of stuff. He tries to get, like live performances as opposed to a sample.
Right.
Even if it's like a sample that he's like building the song around, he wants to recreate it more or less as a band. So that's interesting how he brought the violins in and kind of it's not that complicated of a part, but I can understand how written out on sheet music, they're going to have to like chop it up and figure it out that way as opposed to just playing it.
Yeah, they had to kind of split the phrasing in the way that it was so that everyone was playing a different stroke to kind of get the order right, to kind of hit everything they needed to. Otherwise, they couldn't quite get the tempo that they needed.
Yeah, it's interesting, dude. I don't know. I feel like I could hit this.
You would think so.
It's like a trap, almost like the hi-hats hit so hard, and he's got such a slappy like snare drum. It's like a clap sound. It's not even a snare drum, I don't think. He's got a lot of really good drum. They're not even samples. I'm sure he's like making the beats himself and figuring out like the sound of every part of the drum kit. But he's got some really slappy snares, and this song definitely just comes out the gate with that sound. It's kind of his signature sound. He switches it up a lot on this record, but there's a lot of violins, and there's a lot of really just awesome boom bap style drums where it's just really old school thrashy drums with that really, really snappy snare, and it's all over the place on Remember the Name.
And it goes great with the kind of the aggressive lyrics. Of course, the chorus. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
And what name is that? Are we trying to remember Fort Minor?
Mike.
or Mike Shinoda.
It's Mike,
or
yeah.
Tak or Ryu. There's too many names. I said it on the last episode, but he shouts out everything in the world. Like, he shouts out Machine Shop Records, Mike Shinoda, Fort Minor. He's like trying to promote so many things and bring it all up to that level. And maybe that's why Styles of Beyond is always featured. It's because he was trying to, rep their music career as well, and basically be the executive or A&R to them to kind of boost them up.
Yeah, just
give them the handout.
Bringing everyone together.
But he brings it up, but not Linkin Park. But Mr. Han is on a track. We're going to get to that way later. It's the last song.
And Brad is involved, so yeah.
So we're not going to rank that intro. It's got Jay-Z on it, so that's good, but it doesn't deserve a letter grade. I don't really like intros. I think every intro on every record should just... I skip intros, even if they're 30-second intros. Or 10-second intros. I start at track 2 when I listen to it. Yeah. It just is what it is, like, for the most part. Some of them are good. This one's fine because it leads right into the song. But I like it when a record just hits, like, just go.
And again, even if you're streaming an album or streaming a few songs, you're not streaming the intro. So that has to get skipped more times than not. So
yeah.
But
it was an album, a CD, has an intro. We're skipping the intro. Remember the name. Let's hit it on the tier system. What do you give it, Michael?
A.
Let's see what I wrote down. I wrote them down beforehand. And I give it an A. Not going to be on the mixtape. I think we got to mention, when we got the tier ranking, like A through E, like letter grades, with S being even higher than an A. When we give out an S, that's going to be on our all-time greatest Linkin Park. Not hits, not greatest hits, but fan favorites, according to myself, Ben, and Michael on the POLYMUSE podcast.
Yes.
For that's the S ranking. It's like our Desert Island mixtape of the fan favorites of Linkin Park. The point is, this being a side project of Fort Minor, it's going to be hard to get an S.
Yes, it is.
Because that's going to be taking up space that could be Linkin Park songs. It just is what it is. Just being an offshoot of another band. But yeah, I give Remember the Name an A. It's as good as it's one of the best songs on here.
You'll still be listening to it years from now.
Definitely.
Now the second track, third real track.
See, it gets, you always
third track
you just
on
think
the
of
album.
it in mind as, but yeah, track 3, Right Now, featuring Black Thought, Of the Roots, and Styles of Beyond.
Now, this is one track that I hadn't listened to much in a long time until we were reviewing it for this album. But it's the first one that's a real story on this album. And we go right from the pump up of Remember the Name to Right Now with Black Thought of the Roots involved in the track.
Yeah, it's cool. He starts getting into the storytelling really heavy. It's depressing. Like, all his stories are depressing, which is whatever. I mean, that is what it is, but it's like this one kind of seems like it's just dark for no reason. Like, it's just a bunch of bad stuff that happens to people. He's kind of just explaining all these like random tragedies that happen to random people. I don't know. I don't like it as much as some of the other storytelling stuff on here where it's more blatantly about something real that happened to him. This one seems like kind of like, it's just melodramatic. You know what I mean?
I kind of like it. I like that there's some keys on it, but it's still also, the verses are still pretty aggressive hip hop verses. Just, this is the nitty gritty of what's going on in the world. The chorus, I'm taking it in, out the window of a hotel bedroom again. Tomorrow I'll be gone. I don't know when I'll be back, but in this world, everything can change just like that. So kind of just, maybe if you take it in a more literal sense, just a view outside of a hotel window. Just, this is what can go on in the world. So, I mean,
it's just what's happening right now. You know, that's kind of cool.
I like it as just, you don't know what's in the room next to you, just the demons that people are dealing with, or different things people have going on, and you're just sitting in whether it's your bubble or you're just in your own space, you don't realize what's going on next to you. And I like the instrumentation. We don't have a lot of screaming guitars on here or anything like that.
I think it's all pianos and drums.
Pianos and drums.
He
yep.
does this trick a lot. It's really good, where it's just a really clean piano sound and just kind of that really thrashy breakbeat boom bap. I don't think they're samples. I think he's recreating them piece by piece, but it's just a really old school sounding drums, and that's almost all there is. There's like a bass on there, and they do a really cool like sync up with the bass and the piano, and the piano's just so natural that it just there's like a weird backwards thing too. It's some kind of a synth. It's cool that it's a concept song. There's a lot of concept songs on here, and some of them hit better than others.
It still stays high tempo, so it's still a very hip hop song, and you can still nod your head to it and still kind of process the imagery it's being thrown at you.
But it's dark and it's lyrical. It does move. You're right.
I still really like this track, and I was pleased to pull it up and the re-listen for this album. I would give this like an A-. I actually really enjoy this track, even though it's a little on the darker side.
I gotta give it a C, just for kind of what I was trying to express. It seems a little generic. It's cool. I get why it's got to be on the album. It's not really one that I'm gonna pick out separately. I guess the meaning of it is be grateful, and it could be worse. There's all kinds of tragedy going around you. I just like a lot of the other storytelling more. I think he's good at the concept rap, where he, just starts with an idea and figures out how to make. It's like some of them are almost like novelty songs. We'll hit some of them coming up, but it's like not, where it's just a story, even more so than a song with a chorus or a hook. That he definitely is able to get into that a lot more than with Linkin Park. Linkin Park is more of a radio band with a chorus, and he's obviously able to do more alternative, kind of expanded storytelling stuff where it's almost like watching a movie or something at that point, where you might not even necessarily pull it out as like a song with a hook and a chorus that you're going to go back to all the time, but it's more just like looking at a painting or something. That's how I feel about this. He nails it. Like, it is what it is. I got it. There's better stuff coming up. I'm going to give it a C. There's better stuff coming.
There are certain tracks I feel like you have to be in a mood to listen to sometimes, and this is certainly one of those tracks to me.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Petrified is the next track on this song. I said that very excitedly, and I am not excited about this track.
We were not kind to Petrified on the mixtape. We roasted it.
Yep, this is one of the earlier songs that made the 5-track demo CD and then the mixtape and now the album. It was one of the 5 tracks to get a music video as well. Both Remember the Name and Petrified were 2 of the 5 to get music videos.
Okay.
That weren't very exciting, very bland music videos. And I believe almost all the music videos had the trio of the Styles of Beyond Gentlemen and Mike in them, which is one of the reasons, if you were looking at visuals and then listening to the album, you would think that it was a trio of guys.
It proves our theory.
Yeah.
That it's kind of a trio going on.
I mean, that's what
if not more.
That's what you would think. So it's a lot of 2005 3 guys rapping in outside in buildings.
Yeah, they're like in a train car, just kind of hanging out, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Just be like, yo.
But Petrified.
Yo, we in a train car.
Yeah.
It's all right.
The lyrics aren't very exciting.
Roasted them.
The instrumentation isn't very exciting.
I like the beat. I think the beat kind of stands out. It's really, really spooky. It's got a really weird synth, like a creepy boom bap drums going on, as always. It's great because he's really good at building synths and building layers up as he goes, where it's like different instruments come in and out. So I do like the beat, is what I'm trying to say.
I believe Petrified was the first track that I heard along with the music video, and I was excited for it at the time. I like the high energy. I like the quick, the hip hop. I like the lyrics, at the time. I thought it was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
The music video is in black and white. I think they have flares. They have flares and stuff like that. But it's just, looking back, it's just, the lyrics aren't exciting. The music video is not exciting, and the beat's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it's this one is definitely not a standout today. Like I can see why it was the single or one of the singles at the time that got carried over so much.
I don't think that it aged well.
That's yeah, it didn't age well. So C minus.
Yeah,
We agree. The court says it's a C minus song.
I don't like this track.
It would be a D if the beat was any worse.
Be an F if the beat was any worse.
If it was any worse, I would have cut it. But no, I get it. I get why this was a single. The next one is what? Feels Like Home?
Yes.
Feels Like Home.
And this is not quite a downshift to all the way a calm, chill. You know, it wasn't quite the drop that we get from Remember the Name to track number 2 on this album, which was, you have to remind me what track 2 was again.
Right now.
There we go. So this one's still high tempo. We get some kind of bellish sounds in the background.
Dude, I love this beat. It's like a super old school, like East Coast beat where it's all built around that, like just hitting percussive sample and just really crunchy, awesome sounding drums. It really reminds me of like, you're right. It's like a Bells sample almost. And it's more storytelling rap.
Yeah. We just don't have it's somewhere between just the high energy Remember the Name, Petrified, and just the low tones we have on here for Right Now, and we'll have for Kenji coming up. So there's just such a wide range on this album, both in lyrical content and what we're discussing here and what we're doing instrumentally. It's just there's a wide range on this album. This falls somewhere in the middle.
He mixes it up a lot. The beat is almost always different on all the different songs. He really tries to make it all just hit different on every single one. It sounds fresh, dude. I love this type of production, this type of sample. This is like exactly what I'm looking for from hip hop in general a lot of the time, but it's just I love the atmosphere of this. I'll give it an A. I think it really kind of builds on itself and adds more instruments as it goes along, and that's kind of a sophisticated move for to come in with as a producer. We're able to add layers as you go, and I just love the kind of the atmosphere that it gives.
We should note that this is Styles of Beyond on here as well, so it's the trio again.
Yep.
They do lay pretty good verses. This is a B for me. This is fine. It's not the low on this album. It's not the high on this album. I don't know that I'm replaying it a lot on its own or in the context of I'm pulling this album up and going to listen to some tracks.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the lyrics don't really stand out, but I give it that A just because of that beat, like I already said. I just want to point out Mike is kind of doing the hook in this, and the Styles of Beyond are kind of doing the verses. So it's just kind of divvying up the vocal duties, kind of the way Linkin Park always plays around, where it's like you do the chorus and I'll do the hook, and it's just, or you do the verses, and it's whatever just fits right. So it's cool that they're playing around with that. And there's like a really awesome scratching solo at the end where they just go crazy on the scratching. I don't know if that's Mike doing it. Probably it is. He uses this trick a lot where at the very end of the song he'll bust a solo, and just the very last thing you hear is either a piano solo or a guitar solo or a scratching solo, and this is the first time we hear that, so it's a really cool scratching outro.
And the lyrics aren't the worst. These days are dark and the night's so cold, people acting like they lost their soul, and everywhere I go I see another person like me trying to make it all feel like home. That's fine. But then you have some
a good
lyrics.
hook. Yeah. That's a good cut.
And my life's like trying to swallow a pine cone.
That blows.
It's tough when you live fast. Just try to die slow. I don't.
That's Tack, right?
That's Ryu.
Oh, it's Ryu. Yeah, I remember the pine cone. And there was Tack. Tack goes some other stuff.
Pardon me, I think I'm next to hurl. Too many problems going on. That's why I left my girl.
Not bad.
Parked my backs and I travel with a pen and my notepad. That said I was broken. All the things that I don't have.
They do this a lot where they're like rapping about how they write raps, and it's just that meta where it's like I'm writing a song about how I write songs, and it was, I mean, Eminem obviously is like one of the biggest guys who's always doing that and just writing about how he writes songs, and they get into that on this. Mike does that constantly on this, and to varying degrees of success. Not a bad track. That A. I think it stands up.
I think it's fine. I'll stick with my B.
So we got Where'd You Go right after that, and featuring Hollybrook and Jonah Matranga.
This is the heavy hitter, right?
It hits. It's a hit. This is a hit song.
There were 2 tracks that Mike said had to be on this album, and it was Where'd You Go Here,
Okay.
which he tried to write from the perspective of his wife, where he was leaving home all the time to tour or go to the studio. So This is written from the perspective of his wife. And then Kenji, which we keep referencing, we'll get to here. It was released as a single, almost not quite a year, 6 months-ish after the album came out, and it boosted the album sales about 45%.
That's what you want.
It was Ringtone of the Year for 2006.
Ringtone of the Year, ladies and gentlemen.
According to the MTV Video
Where'd
Music
You
Awards.
Go? Terrific honor for Where'd You Go?
Just a massive song for years and years afterwards.
Hollybrook is Skylar Grey. It's her pseudonym, her alias, her alter ego, I guess her stage name at this point in time. But I am in love with Skylar Grey. I think she's one of the greatest kind of female diva vocalists. Nowadays, she's very well known as kind of Eminem's go-to chorus singing female vocalist. She's well known in the industry as kind of cutting, there's a lot of artists that just kind of cut choruses for other artists essentially and just make hooks and make beats. And she's like a go-to industry vocalist for that kind of stuff. She's got her own albums as well. I like her Don't Look Down album. It's like her holding an axe on the front cover. Any song with Skylar Grey in it gets an A+ from me, dude. I think she's got such a unique tinge to her voice, and just the way that she sings it is so much. It just does it, dude. There's a lot of female vocalists who you can kind of go to like sing a pretty hook. I want to hear Skylar do it.
I think she has a very memorable voice. You're correct. And a voice that, when you hear a new track or an old track you haven't heard before, you're like, I recognize that voice. I know who that is.
She brings it every time.
A live chorus was brought in for this track as well, as we get some of the chorus coming just an kind of in and out.
Like a choir, like a bunch of people?
A choir, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Live chorus.
That's cool.
Live choir, yes.
Backing up Skylar, dude. They got to have a whole choir to back her up.
Yep.
Got that storytelling style where he's, very reliant on kind of painting the picture, taking you through a narrative, giving you characters. I wrote down on my notes, this one's chill and aggressive at the same time.
Yep.
That's what you were saying about the last song, but it definitely applies here too. It's cool how he bridges that gap.
Piano. We always like piano here.
It sounds good. It works. It works on this one.
And everyone remembers the chorus, Where'd you go? I miss you so. It feels like it's been forever since you've been gone. Please come back home.
It's got a really like stompy, shuffly beat where it's just thrashy hi-hats. There's so much air in the beat, but it adds to the atmosphere, like I keep saying. And I already said it's an A+. Skylar's on it, so what do I got to do?
It's an A+ for me as well. So track 7 in stereo.
Yes.
Starts with a Jay-Z saying that beat is hard.
That beat is hard. He's right.
Which is pulled from when he is sitting with Mike and Brad and going over the track selections for the album. And he hears the beat.
Oh, it's a live react.
It is.
Yep. Right there on the album with you. That's kind of funny.
He really likes the beat. And I think he talks about it for quite a bit. This is in a DVD package release with the CD. You can actually see the selection process.
And he just goes on and on about this beat in
particular.
He really likes
it, yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's solid.
I feel like that other song Feels Like Home had like that super East Coast vibe. This one's got like the super West Coast vibe where it's not about the sample, it's about the synth, and you just got that really high pitched, whiny kind of West Coast synth going on, and that's cool that Jay locked into the beat like that.
It does sound good. It is pretty hard. I like the high pitched sound to give it a little bit something different.
It sounds like video game music. It sounds like music from The Matrix.
It does. I don't know that it's a track that necessarily stands out 15 years later, 15 more years of music later.
There's a lot of stuff that's come and gone since this.
I thought they could have done some more cool breakdowns and stuff with it maybe in the middle.
Yeah.
I just feel like there could be more to this track.
Kind of got that thing where it's like a chanting chorus almost. People love that. I still give it a C minus overall. C minus. It's interesting, but it doesn't really rise up above the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, other than the outro where there's a mini breakdown coming out of it, lyrically it's not very excited. Turn the key, turn the volume up loud, roll right, roll every window down, let the whole block know what this is all about.
What's it about? It's nothing. It's not about nothing. He's reaching a little bit where it's like he's just singing, about rapping, about rap. It's fine to do it to a certain extent, but when you're reaching, and he is kind of reaching. The beat is hard though, as Jay would say.
Yeah, we have the whole block rocking in stereo. We're taking control, letting everybody know. That's on the chorus.
Okay.
It's just lyrically not very exciting.
And what does that even mean? What are you talking about?
This is a C track.
It's not an explicitly stated thing. Yeah, I said a C minus. It's whatever. It's cool. It deserves to be on the album. Definitely makes the cut. But, And then after that song is Back Home.
And we're changing tempos again. So we go from Where'd You Go, kind of a piano, not love ballad, a piano sad ballad, into In Stereo, which is supposed to be a kind of a banger, and then we move to Back Home, which is another complete change of tempo here.
Yeah, dude, he mixes it up a lot on this one. Somehow I have no notes about this one, but this one's crazy. It's just a lot of like really chopped up guitar stuff where he's like chopping it at a weird point in the riff to just kind of make a whole new riff out of it, to where it's like a riff that you could never actually play, or you could, but you wouldn't think to play it that way. It's kind of what Daft Punk does a lot, where they'll just chop. They know where to chop it to get that really interesting digging, grinding beat out of it, and that's a really cool effect that he goes for on this one.
Now, Common does have a verse here, and him and Mike worked close in the studio on this track, and this was actually recorded just before Common's big album came out, and he shared some of the tracks from that soon-to-be-released project with Mike.
Oh.
So they had a close relationship, at least while they were recording this track.
That's awesome.
So that's worth noting.
Featuring Styles of Beyond, as ever, as always.
Yep.
Got the boys back. Didn't miss them for that long, but they back.
Yeah. So another entertaining track. Lyrically, it's fine. Common's got an okay verse. I travel the world just to come back to it. The crib got a lot of soul, like black music. I'm attached to it. In many ways, the city raised me and gave me the drama, honor, and bravery. The streets seem hollow when I go to Chicago. It's cheap wine and sorrow. Times is tough to swallow. Very common. Common lyrics. Common brings Common to this song. And lyrically, it's a lot better than other tracks on this album. I'm glad to have our Fort Minor kind of trio here and Common as well. Lyrically, I like it a lot, even if the beat, the instrumentation isn't as exciting.
I think Mike hits really hard. He raps around the beat really good. He sounds like he's really holding it down. I give it a B minus.
Yeah, this is a B minus for me as well.
It could stand out a little bit. I might go back to it separately, from the others, but it's not like a single quality or whatever.
I just feel like they could have done a little bit more instrumentally to make it stand out. It just sounds like a lot of. It sounds very simplistic, I guess I should say. And it just feels like they could have done a little bit more here or there.
Yeah, it's really stuttery and choppy. You got an organ sound in there, which is really cool, like kind of a natural sounding organ, and the scribbling. But yeah, it doesn't really add layers as it goes. A lot of this stuff he'll add, like the second time around the chorus, there'll be an extra instrument in there as it goes along through the song, which is pretty sophisticated. Like that's a really easy, kind of good way to make your music more interesting. It's just to add stuff as the track develops.
And kind of build it. And outside of the organ, we don't really have that here.
Yeah, they could have done a little more here for sure. So we got Cigarettes. This is like a monumental kind of song to me. Mike Shinoda is like a genius. It's so meta. It's like him being able to predict how people would react to his stuff and just kind of it's him peeling back all the layers of his stuff and other hip hop and just hip hop in general, and just really digging deep into some of the stuff that we hit on it a lot harder on the mixtape when we were doing that. But just like, is rap real? Is rap fake? How much of it is just, storytelling? How much of it is a lifestyle? How much of it is like really going on? And this song just digs into all of those questions, and he's really a genius for kind of even taking this on and being able to really address all this stuff on that level. I think lyrically this is insane.
It's just like a cigarette. It's something that I do once in a while, but between me and you. It's just like a cigarette. Nobody's really fooled. I don't want the truth. I want to feel cool, is the chorus.
He just wants to be cool. There's a part where he's like, it's not, what does he say?
He does refer to hip hop himself being hip hop's Marlboro Light. So kind of being
self-effacing humor.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So this is a track that I, in revisiting the album, don't remember listening to a whole lot. But coming back to it, this is a track that I really enjoyed. And it's really a focus on the lyrics more than anything else. But he comes across very strong. There's certainly, I call them power words. There are words he certainly hits at the end of every bar to accentuate how important they are.
He says everyone exaggerates a tiny bit, make it sound more. He says everyone exaggerates a tiny little bit, like all that kind of stuff. He's like really digging in lyrically to like what it means to be a rapper, and how much of it is like bravado and how much of it is just bringing, a character to the track, and how much of it is like really like the way that you're living. And, we've kind of criticized some of his stuff where he's reaching a little bit and kind of just singing about singing and like, oh, I'm going to kill you with my words, like that kind of thing, where it's just kind of goofy, like what are we even talking about? But he's just upfront about all of it, and I just think it's a really cool idea. It's not a great song necessarily, but it's really cool that he was able to kind of address a lot of that basically criticism.
Yeah, this one has a live chorus in the background as well. It's a little bit slower pace track, and just more focus on, hey, listen to the lyrics. We have the chorus in the background and just a steady bass and drum, and that's your beat more or less.
Yeah, the beat's really simple, just a slow, heavy flow. I gotta give it a B+.
I will give this a B. It's certainly a track that I would listen to every once in a while, but not a super highlight on the album to me personally, but I do enjoy it for what it is. Just to kind of, I realize I'm writing all these tracks about what I am. Kind of, I write tracks about rap. This is a track discussing how I write kind of deal. And this is kind of acknowledging
just his place in the game.
His place and where he's at, yes. So, and I think it's written well for what it is. I've never considered any of this to be A+ lyrics, and the beat is pretty simple, but the chorus adds a nice touch. The choir adds a nice touch in the back. So this is a B. This is fine. We roll right from Cigarette. Believe me.
Believe me.
We bring our boys back from Styles of Beyond, and we have
Featuring Bobo, don't know who that is, and Styles of Beyond. This one sounds a lot like a Linkin Park song, just kind of because there's that sang chorus, which I guess is Bobo. He's kind of doing the Chester part of this. Very boom bap style, very violins style, very kind of signature Mike Shinoda style. I like the sang chorus. The hook is it digs, it grinds on you. It's got a really hooky hook on there. I think that's Bobo singing.
This is basically a pop song.
It's a pop song. I like that. Styles of Beyond in there, get some verses in there, get some hook in there.
We do have a music video for this track as well, of a bunch of guys chilling in a building,
So they were in
rapping,
a-
which
in
is
a
fine. It's not
Train
exciting
car,
at
no,
all.
they're in a building, nothing's happening.
Yeah, it's boring, but yeah, just a fine track. You can bob your head a little bit. This is a bland track to me. I don't.
You kind of forget about this.
Yeah, I didn't
kinda
realize
do.
there was a music video
No, I
till
don't know.
recently.
I've never seen it. How about a C? Average.
Yeah, it's just very.
Middle of the bell.
It's just. I realize that he's still doing a lot of different tones in this. A lot of different.
It is
a lot of
different.
different feelings, and this falls in line with that as far as falling out of line and doing something different. But this just feels out of place even on that. So, and it just isn't that special. This is a C.
Album track, you know what I mean? Not necessarily a standout, but it's got to be on there. It fills out the sound. Let's move on. Let's do Get Me Gone, track 11, cruising on through. Get Me Gone. What do we think about Get Me Gone? This song, it's not really a song. I mean, it is a song. It starts out, okay, this is the one where Mike, he tells you a story. He tells you the story about the record label exec who basically didn't believe in Linkin Park and didn't believe in the rapping and wanted it to just be kind of a normal metal band. And it's just Mike kind of explaining the history of basically the record execs telling them to change their sound. And then it goes to a song, and then he tells the rest of that story. It's only a minute and 50 seconds, so it's kind of an interlude. I'm going to give this an S, dude. I would put this on the mixtape. I think this is awesome. I think it's a part of the mythos of Linkin Park for him to like tell that story and then to have such a meta rap where he explains exactly what happened. The whole rap in the middle is just is his life, just verbatim. And I'd give it an S to put it right on that mixtape to give you that story, dude. What do you think about Get Me Gone?
Well, when you put it in that context, that's something I'd never thought about. But when you consider, and I've always considered our master like a mixed CD. And let me tell you, as someone who burned a lot of CDs,
yes,
sometimes you can fit 15, 16, 17, 18 tracks in there.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't go by length, you can go by file size. And since this clocks in at like a minute 56,
get it on there.
You can fit it in the beginning, get your little intro going.
That's a good intro.
Yeah.
Interlude. It's like perfect. It's almost a song, not quite. It's like a story, a mini song, a story.
Okay, so how about this? I can't give it an S.
Okay.
But I would consider it as like an interlude to my mixtape.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. The beat's fine. It just,
we have some keys.
Part of the history going on.
Yeah, it's fine for the minute that there's lyrics, I think.
And then he tells you another story.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want music? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is a C. It's a thing. And we roll right.
Then we get a John Legend song.
Yeah. So we have some heavy hitters on here, really.
Dude, he's
John
big.
Legend, Common.
That's a
Jay-Z's
huge
not on
get.
it, but yeah, so a number of big names associated with this.
I don't like this song though. I think it's really simple. What do you think?
Well, it's a fine track. I like John Legend. This was still early in his career, much like it was early in Common's career. It's fine. again, it's Mike talking about himself. He's
Right.
not really. I don't know. When I think of especially more hip hop music, I think of either a boisterous, high tempo, high excitement, high energy
Yeah.
track, or you're telling a story, or there's certain pockets.
There's the
But
MC style where you're working the room. There's the storytelling style.
But this you talking about you as a writer or something is just not something that I hear on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Maybe this was big in 2005.
I mean,
recall a lot of
Eminem
this.
does it where you're talking about you writing songs. It's like, but you gotta base it in a reality. Like, it has to be real things that happened because of it. Like, you can't just always be like, it's poetry about poetry. Get it? It's like, yeah, I get it. It's just like, it also has to be based in an actual movement, an actual thing that happened around you, or an actual event. You know what I mean?
If folks wrote like this now, how he wrote this kind of style,
Yeah.
it'd be all my haters on Instagram told me I couldn't do this, so I did it, and I'm here with a pen in my hand writing this song.
And I wrote it in front of your face.
Now, I'm not saying there aren't tracks like that, but that's so boring.
I don't, dude. This
and he
piano's-
writes a number going back and reviewing these albums.
Yeah.
Now as we're older,
Right.
he writes so many tracks like this, and it's
Yes.
so boring, and I don't care.
You got to base it in something real. It's got to be grounded to a certain degree. You got to have a nugget in there where it's like, this actually happened. I don't like the pianos in this. I think it's like simple and boring.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to have John Legend on a track and have such a boring, clanky piano. We're not even playing chords here. We're playing
Not
the same
really.
couple notes back and forth.
It sounds like
There's
a loop.
no chords here.
It's not great. And the lyrics are like really bad pun. Like, I'm a struggling doctor with no patience. Patience. Get it? Like, it's all that kind of stuff. And he hasn't really earned it. And it's not really that clever. I just think the whole thing is kind of garbage. I gave it a D- on my notes. I didn't want to give it a flunk, but it's pretty flunky.
Well, that's unfortunate. You've now made me recalibrate this whole thing.
Okay, what'd you have on it?
Yeah, I like this less now. This is not something I'd re-listen to.
Not great.
This is a solid D for me. Yeah, I don't know how you don't do some real piano here with John Legend.
It's not
something
good.
different.
Right.
This is not good.
It sounds like a piano loop and you have a featured piano player. What are you doing? I don't get it. It's like I would have trashed this one on Jump.
That's unfortunate. Well, we roll into a monster song after this, track number 13.
Gigantic accomplishment that he put this together and was able to express this story this way. Very big track.
Kenji cuts in vocal recordings of Mike's father discussing how his father, Mike's grandfather, suffered through World War II as a Japanese man and was forced into an internment camp. And the lyrics are very vivid and laid out to how they had 2 days to pack everything up, and just the whole story of the whole experience that both his grandfather and his father went through.
It's just such a heavy track. I think it's beautiful how he was able to put this story in this way with this atmosphere into this type of a song. It starts with that sample of his dad talking about, his dad, Mike's grandpa, just growing up, as a Japanese guy in America, building his own store, but then being treated like with so much suspicion. Everyone was so afraid during World War II, and him being put into an internment camp, and just the tragedy of the government and the FBI just rounding up Japanese people, who had no problem about them, and putting them into internment camps. And it's hard to listen to it. It's like, it's like watching a movie about the Holocaust, or watching a movie about Japanese internment camps. Like, there's so much just heavy history and emotion in that you don't want to listen to this all the time.
No, It is very quick though. It's not like a slow tempo. It's very quick. It is a hip hop song.
Yep.
He's telling a story.
Got some boom bap going.
We've got his aunt also interwoven with vocal recordings as well to kind of set up the story as well. We've got some angelic voices in and out, so it's just very atmospheric.
It's like a heavy, thick bass and kind of twinkly guitars. He goes guitars instead of violins. He's been leaning on violin. Now it's guitars again. Yeah, that kind of angelic oh's going on in the background. Bass kind of just tearing it up. It's a good track. It is a good track. It's just very important historical, but also personally emotional subject matter to Mike and his family and his grandfather, and just it's a tragedy. And he is able to paint that picture musically as well as lyrically. It's an A+ song. I would never put it on a mixtape because I don't want to hear it, so I can't give it a S. Like, I can experience it, but I don't want to like jam out to this all the time. It's like it's a World War II movie. It's a Holocaust movie. I can't just listen to this.
I think this is amazing from both a lyrical perspective. Instrumentally, it's very good. I mean, how it all comes together. The vocal recordings and how they're used to push the story forward are important. They're also in the outro as well. This is an A+ for me.
There we go. A+ song.
Very close to an S for me. I don't know how it would fit in the canon of a Linkin Park mix CD.
Right.
But if there was another very, something as far as importance.
Yeah, like a historical monumental songs mix CD, it would be in there, like
or just how to tell a story.
Yeah.
Through songwriting, this would be on it.
You could like teach this in an English class,
which may be a more important than the Linkin Park top.
That's
album.
A good point.
So
it fits in a different canon. That's a really good point.
I just think once you hear this song, between how the instrumental goes together and both the outro about his aunt saying, I remember my husband said, "Oh, we're gonna stay till last." Then my husband died before they closed the camp. Like,
wow.
Didn't make it out of the internment camp. And that's on the outro as the instrumentation is coming to a close. That's something that kind of, if you're really listening to the song, you don't have it on the background or something like that. Something that you kind of remember. So I think it's a song that sticks with you.
It's a monster accomplishment. He knew exactly what he needed to do to get this across, and it's perfect. He just annihilates it, and it's really just, how could anyone else tell the story any differently or any better? And he just needed to get this. It's like you said, it fits into a higher canon where it's just like works of art about history that explain something or tell a story it's a really good one. After Kenji, you've got Red to Black.
Red to Black reminds me of the White Stripes.
There you go.
What track is it? We got the little bass.
Kind of Seven Nation Army.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That going on. Very thick, heavy guitar, bass tones going on. Shuffly beat. He's going with that shuffly, like really hi-hat heavy thing going on. We got
Styles of Beyond back with a couple verses.
Gotta have them.
We got some nice ohs, some vocals in the back.
It sounds like a Linkin Park song. That's like the Chester part. It's not Chester, but it's like he kind of wrote it the way he would have written a Linkin Park song, honestly.
I really like it. It's this Jonah
Matranga.
There we go.
Featuring Kenna, Jonah Matranga, and Styles of Beyond. But yeah, it's either Kenna or Jonah Matranga doing the OOOs, the Chester part.
And I really like that. That adds a nice element to the back.
It's good hook. It's a good, choral vocal, kind of singing style vocal as opposed to the hip hop style vocals. Fits really good with the Styles of Beyond. They come in and cut it up.
I guess if you had to describe it, would it be like a rock rap? I guess this would be a rock rap song.
I think it counts. Song. It's like the most similar to Linkin Park. It's definitely based around a guitar riff. and you get that part where he's like, "You're dying to get away," or "She's dying to get away." Like it sounds exactly like a Linkin Park song. It's cool that he went there, man. Like he had to at least do one or two where he's like, what if it was a Linkin Park song, but it was a Mike Shinoda song? Like he's got to kind of do that little bit of overlap. So I'm glad that he really did one that was rock rap, even though it is supposed to be a hip hop album.
I like this a lot. I like this a lot, actually. The lyrics aren't bad. They're singing vocals on the chorus. He's dying to get away, like the pain of yesterday, go slipping through the cracks, hiding himself away, watching all the memories fade away from red to black, by our features, Jonah and Kenna. And it's just, we've got some solid verses here. We've got some good singing chorus, and the instrumentation's pretty good. This is a solid track, not one that I remember from 2005, not one that really stuck out to me, but this is a solid like A- track for me.
I give it a B. I think it's cool. It's got that ending. He's got a solo at the end, like the last 32 bars is just always a solo in all of these songs. Another scratching solo this time. Not bad. Pretty cool album track. After that, you got basically an interlude. It's called The Battle, featuring Self-Titled. It is literally Self-Titled at a rap battle, like a live, just some kind of rap show where he's just freestyling on the mic live in front of an audience. And all of that's on the record. It's got nothing to do with the studio album. It's just, I think it works perfectly as an interlude, though. It really just shakes it up, just puts you into a totally different atmosphere. What do you think about The Battle?
Yeah, I'm not a big interlude fan, but this is a fun little piece to have in here. Which is kind of funny because, as we said, they do a lot of different styles on this album, so it's not truly like a hip hop album, a rap battle type album.
Right.
But this is still a nice little trinket to have in there towards the end of this album. It's just a fun little interlude.
It deserves to be on there. It's not Mike, it's self-titled, but it's cool.
Self-titled, who appeared on the Fort Minor mixtape quite a bit on several tracks.
Gives you a little atmosphere, a little bit of a live hip-hop thing, kind of shows you a different side to the game. Yep. And then it leads you into one more song. We got Slip Out the Back.
We've got another Linkin Park member, Mr. Hahn.
Mr. Hahn, the DJ of Linkin Park. Kind of an awesome guy, kind of a big deal. This song is kind of generic musically. It's kind of just a slappy drum thing and piano and really nothing else. It's a little bit boring on the music.
Yeah, I felt like it built a little atmosphere. You have a key sounding, piano-ish keys.
Super clean piano.
And you have maybe a muffled voice, a muffled first voice, first intro, first chorus, first. There we go. We got our terminology right. We're getting
going
there.
Through the first verse. I think the lyrics are really cool. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really self-aware. It's all about how he's basically a ghost and how he slips out the back. He's basically an introvert. It's not that complicated. Like, he's an introverted guy. He's never going to be kind of the bombastic, over the top rapper that just loves to party and loves to be in the spotlight. And this song really lyrically tackles that in kind of a really cool, not overblown, but kind of just artistic way of just talking about, slip out the back before they know you were there. At the worst, you'll see that nobody cares. You don't want to be around when it all goes down. Even heroes know when to be scared. That part's dope. Even heroes know when to be scared. So it's he's not trying to be a superstar. He's just trying to do what he wants to do. He realizes he's on that big stage, but he's really just like a shadow dude. He is kind of just in the background of it all.
Yeah. And maybe this being the last track on the album is a reference to just kind of gonna disappear now, and this is the last track I'm gonna take off now. Yeah. But I always thought it kind of built an atmosphere of someone in the room by themselves or someone alone in the corner of a club while there's a live performance going on. Ooh. And kind of just disappearing and taking off in the darkness. So I thought it kind of would built, do. Yeah, so I thought it kind of built an imagery or built a picture in your head. So I kind of like it. It's okay. I think it's kind of calm despite him being kind of aggressive in the way that he comes across lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fine song. I don't like that it's the last song on the track.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a weird way to end the whole album. We go from a very impactful song like Kenji in track 13 to Red to Black in 14, which is another kind of switch up
You got
from
the Linkin Park
earlier in the
ripoff.
album. Yep. Then we go to the brief battle interlude at 15, then to this track, Slip Out the Back. It feels like just a weird end to the whole album.
I mean, it feels like it could be a double album at that point. I mean, there are bonus tracks. We're going to hit those next, but it just feels, it's like, here's 3 more random ideas. You know, it's like you could keep going. Just do that style and that style.
To start off with Petrified, remember the name. He truly did slip out the back here and just kind of disappear off the end of this album. I mean, honestly, coming up, hearing this the first time, the back few songs of the album are all skips for me. So I didn't listen to this a whole lot.
It's kind of underwhelming. It doesn't do anything musically that the other songs don't do. It's just kind of a retread musically, even though it's got Mr. Han on there, which is even more disappointing. But when I think the lyrics are really good. I think they're really smart and really kind of interesting and just self-aware and really kind of grab you and hit you where it's like makes you think about, you know, another point of view, and just lyrically that brings it all the way up to a B+ for me.
Yeah, I'm not skipping it if it comes on. This is a sneaky B for me.
Sneaky
B.
Okay.
Slippery B.
Slip out the back.
Slips into a B for me.
Slip in, slip out. That's what it is.
There you go.
It's cool. It's a good song.
So overall, here coming to the end of the standard project, we'll hit the bonus tracks here in just a second. But I would say that it's a great project.
Yeah.
Again, much like Linkin Park, Fort Minor is just, you hit a lot of different pockets.
Yeah.
You've got your storytelling. You've got your hype up tracks. You've got your more towards rock almost. You've got your kind of pop. You've got a lot of different pockets here. Almost every song's something a little different.
You got a lot of violins.
I was going to give a few examples of each.
You got a lot of pianos.
Everything's a little different.
You got a lot of boom bap. You got a lot of sample. You got a lot of synth. You got ones that are built around the sample. You got ones that are built around the synth. He tries to shuffle up the beat a lot. He never just relies on a sample. He builds it up and got a lot of different sounds on all the percussion instruments. Very good production, very good songwriting, layers to it, meticulously done. Great album, really.
Yeah.
He nails it, and he goes above and beyond to try and make it timeless. And I think largely it is. I think probably 70-80% of this is like kind of timeless music that would really fit in just going forward into rock or rap or whatever it becomes. A lot of this will still be emotionally, it'll hit the same.
I would love to hear another full Fort Minor project. I mean, back then, having names like Jay-Z attached, he had Lupe Fiasco on the mixtape, John Legend, Common
on a bad song, but still.
Yeah, but the names he could pull even back then, I just think the folks that he could pull on projects now, or the different different range and the spectrum of music he could cover, different things he could do, I think would be pretty cool.
He got a lot of good scores from us on this, even without the band and without the other guys' input, just kind of him standing alone. Obviously, Jay-Z's kind of checking him and making sure he doesn't fall too off the path or whatever, but he got a lot of good scores from us on this.
I give the album an A-, even though we aren't really ranking albums, but
I will give the album a B-.
Ooh.
In terms of all the Linkin Park, just as compared to the rest of Linkin. There's some really good Linkin Park coming up. And obviously he learned from this. Just him being able to touch all those different styles and be like, I can do this, I can do that, I can make one like this, I can make an East Coast song, I can make a West Coast song, I can make a scary song, I can make a funny song, I can make he actually can. So it's like, it's cool that it got it all out of his system, you know what I mean? So he can do some really, really monumental stuff coming up next.
Yeah, I didn't realize how important this project was in the spectrum of things, 15 years ago. But looking back, this was, I think, a big project, both
It's
in
the only
content and
one.
production
It's the only Fort Minor.
and what he had attached. Yeah, this is
He really brings it. He really accomplished what he set out to do
yeah.
in a big way. Major accomplishment for Mike. Very cool album.
Major accomplishment for the minor.
We got some bonus tracks. They are on the album. We got 17 and 8. Track 17, track 18, Silence. Just separating it out. Track 19, Be Somebody, is also on the mixtape. We got some bonus tracks on here. Track 17, track 18, Silence. Just breaking it up from the bonus tracks. Then we got track 19 is Be Somebody featuring Lupe Fiasco, Holly Brook, Mike GF, and Tack of Styles of Beyond. This one was on the mixtape. We already checked it out there. I think it's a slightly different version, but not really. Track 20, There They Go, featuring 6 John. This is the one I loved from the mixtape.
Yeah, this is a good jam. This is something that would have been great if they included it in the Rising Tide album. It would have been another starkly different track from anything else that actually made Rising Tide. But Mike was no stranger to doing that with anything else on the album.
I love it. It sounds like Space Jam music, and I love Space Jam. Good song.
Yeah.
It's cool that they put it on the B-side like that. Good idea.
So both of those tracks were solid, and we went over them already. But track 21, The Hard Way, is an original track, although not particularly exciting. We do have Kenna back on here, who was a vocalist way back on Red to Black.
And it's essentially a proto version of What I've Done, or another Linkin Park song. It's got like a very similar drum loop, drum pattern, and a very similar piano pattern to What I've Done, the huge Linkin Park hit coming up. And so it just sounds generic. It's like a prelude to like the sound that's coming up next, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's even kind of more interesting that it's like the final bonus track, that a lot of the stuff coming up actually sounds exactly like this. Like exactly like this.
It wasn't bad. I'm not even sure where you pull the bonus track up from, but it wasn't a bad track. If you go and listen to it, it's just not anything special. So
they got all the bonus tracks on the Fort Minor YouTube page.
Oh, there we go. Right there.
It's they're complete, dude. Their YouTube pages are great. Linkin Park and Fort Minors.
All right. So you can certainly go check them out there. We did discuss, like I said, Be Somebody and There You Go on the previous albums. These titles are not awesome.
Yeah, the song titles in general. I wanted to mention that. They are just really I think you got to be more clever with song titles than just putting like a fragment of a sentence. It's got to be something more. Like these titles are like Right Now, Where'd You Go, Back Home, Feels Like Home, Red to Black. Like they just don't sound like good title. They don't describe anything or like present the concept really. I think you could have done better. Overall, I wanted to mention that song titles.
Now, a final note, the art for Fort Minor's The Rising Tide album, Mike designed that. He drew and was painting different items at the time and put the art for the album together himself. On the front, we have kind of like a robot, a playing card, kind of a hodgepodge of different things. And it's kind of cool art. It's got not quite an anime style, but certainly a cartoonish kind of style to it. Maybe sort of an anime style. But it's an album cover that you would certainly remember if you listen to the album years past, and certainly has its own distinct look to it. It's a very bland color palette outside of some reds. Got some kind of blue greens and some white, and it kind of looks industrial. Just a cover that you would remember, I think, looking at if you saw it back in time. But it's another piece that Mike, in addition to putting almost this entire album together himself, he designed the cover himself as well.
I think it's iconic. I think the album cover is great. I think it fits the mood of the music. I think it stands out. You kind of I remember like vividly like Best Buy catalogs, and that's how I got music at the time, was like buying CDs, and it would be Collision Course and this and other stuff. But like I just remember the imagery of this a lot, like the skull and the playing card and all of it. And that's cool that it's self-designed, and yeah, it fits in your head as like a concept, and as it does what an album cover is supposed to do, where it's just like an icon for what you're about to get into.
I think it does still stand out today if you do take it out and put it next to other album covers. Although I'm not sure album covers stick out as much today if you were, just a hit play on an album or a single. I enjoy it. So thanks for checking out Fort Minor's Rising Tide with us. We will hop back into the Linkin Park continuum of albums with our next episode. Please check us out on polymuse.com and our socials, and we will check in with you next week.
Yeah, we're doing Minutes to Midnight, monumental, gigantic Linkin Park album. Check it out. That's coming up next. Part 3 of Linkin Park, essentially. See you then.